Welcome back to Brothers View, episode
14?
14?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know why we're counting these things.
They all start to jumble together.
Yeah.
Dude, it's March. We have an election in a few months, 6, 7, 8 months. 8 months away? Yeah,
something like
November,
that,
right?
yeah.
So 8 months away, you got the election. I'm not particularly excited. I would have had more. I think it's just going to be a repeat of what we saw last time, and I feel like all the mud that one candidate can fling at the other one is the same thing that they have. You're old. No, you're old. You know what I mean? You're an asshole. No, you're an asshole. You're like, I don't feel like we're going to get the best versions of these guys. I think they've kind of outlived their best versions. I think that Don has more to him than Biden does. I think I might end up voting for Donald Trump. And I didn't think I would, but given what's happening, I can roll with that devil that I know better than I can roll with the other older devil that I know.
We're going to go into our little predictions here and how things we think are going to roll out. But I'm going to make the first prediction right now, okay? I don't know who's going to win. I know who lost.
Huh. What do you mean?
We did. The American people lost.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who gets in there.
Yeah.
We've already lost. This entire election process, like you said, is going to be a repeat of the same nonsense.
Yeah.
Everybody keeps talking about progress. Everybody thinks about talking about changes and how much America has gone. And yet we're always complaining that the country is run by old white men.
Right.
And the only thing that's changed is we've managed to get even older white men to be part of this conversation. Okay. And this is not about making about race. The point is that it's the same. And if that's my problem when you discuss this idea that you're not excited about it, I think that's the general sentiment across the country, because it just feels like this is more of the same. Not only is it the same two candidates before, but most of these issues, everything that's being treaded over, it's the same argument we've been having literally for the last 8 years.
I think back during Obama, that was probably the only time you had such diverse candidates. Not because one's white, one's black. Just I feel
It
like
was something different.
It was something different.
It was
You know what I
something
mean?
different.
Like
Absolutely.
Obama's claim to fame in the first election was, motivating the younger voters. I think he was the first guy to successfully use social media. Social media probably wasn't what it was anyway, but he successfully used that platform to,
I think social media was a major force for Obama, and I think that the Republican Party in general was way behind the curve when it came to using social media, more specifically reaching to the younger audiences through that medium.
Yeah.
Now, we could argue that maybe the adoption of social media wasn't as widespread in older generations, but it was definitely there in the younger generation. And most of the political machines were not set up to use those platforms. And Obama was definitely the first one to do that quite successfully. And more so than his message, that fact that he reached out to them through that method,
you
through
actually
that
care.
motivation,
Yeah.
that's the platform that they were using.
Yeah.
It gave them value because the other side literally failed to do so. So even if they were going to agree with them ideologically, you didn't speak to them.
Right.
That was their platform.
And I think Trump did a good job using social media. Whether you think you can argue that it was weaponized or whatever, but the bottom line was he used social media.
And he used it as a tool. Now we can argue about how well, but he absolutely leveraged it. No question.
Well, I would say
about it.
Hillary, I don't remember her doing anything on. So I'm sure she did, but nothing was memorable. I think there's more attack ads. I would say, and I don't have the statistics, but I would say Obama was more of awareness and reaching out. And I would say the Trump use of social media was probably more attack ads. I remember seeing more attack ads of making fun of Hillary, making her look like a devil, her eyes exploding, all kinds of stupid shit, whatever. Then I remember there being the message or whatever. But the point is, both of those presidents used social media effectively to win the election.
Right. And I think my perception, and this is like, hindsight 2020 type thing, the way I remember the events, I think Hillary kind of assumed she had the younger vote and didn't make enough of an effort to go out and get it, and that ended up costing her. I think if she had reached out a little bit more to them through those platforms, that base would have come in a little bit stronger for her and might have made the difference. going into that situation. I think she figured her real combat with him was with the older generations, and therefore that's where they sank their
And
dollars.
she campaigned to the last minute. I think Trump stopped like a week before election. He's like, we're done. We've done our job. And I thought that was a mistake, but that was ballsy, man. Mic drop. We're not campaigning anymore.
And he did the same thing again this year when it came to the Republican nominees. There was no point in doing any sort of debates. He didn't sit up there and challenge anybody. He felt that everyone was not actually they weren't even there. He basically ignored all of them.
How you win a nomination and never show up to a debate?
I mean, he's rewritten every rule. He's written every rule. I mean, like the idea that this man never stood up to a single one of these candidates is.
They should call him the Teflon Don.
Teflon Don.
Nothing sticks to him, bro. Nothing sticks to him. He's got cases. He's got people saying the man doesn't have money. He's got lawsuits. He doesn't show up to debates, and he wins the primary. I mean,
with his base, I'm not saying everyone. With his base, okay, this is a part of the appeal.
Hell yeah.
Of him, but then at the same time, all of these attacks, you're talking about these lawsuits and all this stuff that are coming after him. It's helping him. It's strengthening him because people just look at all of this as political rhetoric. You're not doing this because he did anything wrong. You're doing this because you don't like him.
Which I kind of agree on some of the stuff. I mean, a lot of the things why people are going after him is because he ruffles feathers. Like, I don't know, the latest lawsuit, whether the state of New York or the city of New York, I think it's the state or the city, whatever. They're making
city, I believe it's
the city, making them pay all this money back for misrepresenting financials, this and that. I'm like, every investor does that. They give you a snapshot of their financials to look good. It's up to the bank now to do their due diligence and check it out. Now, if you flat out lie and take your bank statements and go to Photoshop and put extra zeros and whatever, that's fraud. You're going to jail. But they're saying this
if
man.
If you put up a building for collateral that you don't own, that's fraud.
Right.
Okay, because that's an absolute lie.
Yeah.
If you put up a building that you own and claim it has a different value, okay, that's up to them to challenge and assess. That's called negotiation. Honestly, this is the investor equivalent of, or I should say the normal employee equivalent of fluffing your resume.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all you did. You put all this stuff that you did on your resume and made it sound fantastic.
And you didn't. And you made everybody money. The people that you borrowed the money from are happy with you. They independently verified what they thought. And the guy said it. They're like, when you say your building's worth 10 million, we know it's not worth 10 million. We go and we evaluate it. And you know what? It was pretty close. So it was within our margin of error, within our parameters. We loaned you the money. So I don't see what the problem is. I just, definitely to me, they're going after him because they don't like him. And they were trying to, everything they're doing is just a waste of time because it doesn't work. I think you just got to, you know how you beat them? At the election. That's it.
I think this is an attempt to paint him as the out of touch billionaire because of all this money that he has. So therefore, if we can paint him as this out of touch billionaire, right, then the common man, which is a core part of his
base.
You know, the MAGA group is really a lot of blue collar individuals who are not millionaires. Okay. So if you can paint him as this out of touch billionaire, then maybe you can erode some of those people away from him.
Yeah. I think it's the opposite.
No, absolutely it's doing the opposite because they're not stupid. They're buying into this. They're not buying into this, I should say. They're recognizing that all of this is being done as some sort of essentially a smear campaign. You're just trying to paint him as bad a light because you're that afraid of him. And that's the biggest problem. All of these attacks are basically projecting from the left fear of Donald Trump coming into office. If he's that bad, then you should just beat him in the election. It should be just at votes. You know what I'm saying? People's record, their rhetoric should blow him away if he's as bad as you think he is.
Right. Well, and I think the problem is essentially, you know, because it's political and they're automatically going to believe that everything you're saying about him is a lie. If we took the politics out of it, I think, and this was just a normal businessman doing whatever, maybe on face people would maybe believe it. But the fact that it's political, of course, the only person who's going to say something bad about Trump is somebody who wants you to vote for Biden or the opposite party. So you have an ulterior motive. You have a hidden agenda. So I think that just galvanizes his base even more. I just think just got to let it be and hopefully see, because it was close. The election was close. The last two elections were close. He won not by a lot. I think it was 1 million votes he won against Hillary. And I think the margin was about 1 million votes where he lost to Biden.
Popular numbers, yeah.
Yeah, popular numbers. Not
Yeah,
popular
right,
numbers. Yeah. But my point is, the country's divided.
Right.
The rest is strategy. You know what I mean? A popular vote, we know why it doesn't work or whatever. But winning the election through electoral college, that's strategy. And I think that's where he beat Hillary, was on the strategy. Biden essentially beat him on both, right? The popular vote and the strategy. I don't think he's got it in him to do it again. Who's the most popular president in history? Joe Biden had the most votes in U.S. history. Now, that number's a little skewed because I would probably say somebody like JFK was probably more popular, but there weren't that many Americans.
Well, you also need to think about, okay, there's a couple of different things when we throw
Yeah.
out these voter numbers, okay, because you need to look about voter participation. And this is really the issue that it's all going to come down to, okay?
Yeah.
Voter participation is a major aspect because throughout history, majority of American citizens, the only ones who can vote, another political issue, right? But the majority of American citizens don't actually vote. Okay. And they vote in highest numbers during presidential elections. So we would call off election, off presidential years. The numbers are even worse. Okay. We're talking about as little as 500 people decide who's going to be their next senator or
Yeah.
or representative. Okay. These things get ignored. They don't draw the same amount of
How about the
attention.
people that run unopposed? Yeah.
Exactly. The attention isn't paid there. So when we talk about those numbers, the issue is voter participation, how much people are getting in, how much people are showing up. And the reason why that is so important is because this is what we talk about, that fire. We talk about this fire with Trump, like him or don't like him. There's a sense of fire. There's a sense of passion that's coming from that side that right now we're really not seeing with Biden. Okay. Now, I don't believe all of a sudden that all these guys that were Biden fans 4 years ago are suddenly going to go, this is Sleepy Joe, I'm going to go for Trump. I don't think that's going to happen. But what could very easily happen of there's Sleepy Joe, well, I'm going to go take a nap too, and they're not going to show up to vote.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
And that changes elections.
unfortunately, or maybe factually, I don't know, but I've always felt that the Republicans were more on the side of stopping people from voting. So like they've made it harder for people to vote. I know that's been a Democrat argument for quite some time. With the whole ID law, you had to have an ID to vote. All of a sudden, everybody's like, "Oh, you and I were like, okay, fine, you're supposed to have an ID to vote." But a lot of folks are saying that do vote, primarily your lower income people, more people in urban areas don't have an ID, and they were saying that was a Republican implemented tactic to reduce voter participation. So I don't think I can think of any time the Democrats have done something similar to that. But just to your point, voter participation is going to play a big role into it, to the point where even Trump was saying, hey, this is not a foregone conclusion that I've won. You still need to show up to vote. And I think that if the complacency of the ruling party, the winning party, will be to their detriment. So if you think Trump is like going to win, it's guaranteed, it's a landslide, and these people don't show up to vote, he would lose, and he probably would have been the more popular choice. But I kind of always seen Democrats more, and maybe because always, most of the time I'm in areas where I see, how do I want to say this? I see more people standing there with clipboards motivating people to register to vote, and they're pushing the Democrat agenda. I've never seen a Republican person standing there with a clipboard motivating people to vote. So I don't know. I kind of feel like the Democrats have always been able to increase voter participation, and the Republicans kind of they're not, I don't know. That's just not their thing. I don't want to accuse them of voter suppression, but at the end of the day, it's a tactic, just like gerrymandering. It's just a tactic, and I
push back on that a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm just saying that there's a little bit too much political rhetoric attached to that. What I saw was a bunch of Republicans questioning voter fraud. Now,
That was part of it. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
now, to the extent that voter fraud actually occurs, it's really I don't know that it's a very fuzzy line. There's a lot of weird stuff that's going on. Not enough for me to say that there was voter fraud, but enough to me to say this needs to be looked at. Okay. And the efforts that were done to say, let's look at that, were saying finding a simple solution like, oh, just have an ID.
Yeah.
Okay. Neither one of us had a problem with that, but that was painted as, oh, that's voter suppression.
Right.
So me trying to come up with common sense ways of addressing and the concerns regarding these things. One of the major concerns that was brought up during the Trump Biden election was the fact that in-person voting favored Trump. Mail-in voting dramatically favored Biden. Now, I don't know if those numbers are true. That's the rhetoric that's being put out there. Okay. There has to be a question there. There has to be some sort of examination of how it is you're going to tell me that only liberals stayed home and voted by mail.
Right.
That doesn't, the statistics of that is hard to swallow. That doesn't mean it's not true. Okay. But there's a question there that needs to get raised. Did everybody okay. The ongoing joke was that grandma always voted Republican until she died. Then she started voting Democrat. These jokes and these memes are out there, but there's a question there. There's,
Where there's smoke, there's fire.
It doesn't even really matter. What matters is the faith and integrity of the election. People need to buy into this. And we are living in an era where people do not have faith in the government. They do not have faith in our institutions. You need to strengthen that faith. So whatever method you're going to use to defend and clarify the integrity of the election process, it needs to happen. Because if people completely lose faith in that process, A, they're not going to participate. And B, they're not going to accept governance.
Right.
Because they're going to feel like that person is not really representing them because they weren't an elected official.
I think there is a growing distaste towards government. Definitely from younger people as we get more and more. I think it's gone from distaste to just don't give a shit. And I probably think that we'll see the least amount of younger voters vote in this election in quite a long time because they're just not concerned. I think it's just so out of touch. And maybe that's the problem, like people have been saying. We got two old white dudes running for president. It doesn't really reflect the America that we live in. And I think we need more participation from younger folks. I think it's essential for any society.
We all cracked down on Trump because he said the system was rigged. Okay. Because, of course, he said this when things didn't go his way.
Yeah.
Okay. But that sentiment is actually still there, and it's there on both sides. I don't think when you say that young people don't care, okay, I don't think that's as accurate as much as it is like they don't feel like their vote actually matters.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's a different thing. These guys are, and the ones that are running are just coming in to say, yo, this system is broken. We need to fix it. Okay. You have another group that's like, this system's broken. You just need to tear it down and start over.
Yeah.
That's a sentiment that's coming in with the younger generation. If you don't find a way to engage those individuals, I think you said, you're right. There's going to be a low voter turnout.
Yeah.
Historically speaking, that works better for the Republican candidate.
Yeah. Yeah. So it kind of goes to my point.
Yes.
The Republicans kind of favor voter suppression. I mean, you just said it.
That's a very slanted.
If there's a lower turnout, it tends to favor the Republican Party.
I would say they might benefit from a lower turnout. That's not the same thing as them trying to do suppression. Those are two different things.
Okay, look, the voter suppression, if you make it harder for someone to vote, I'm calling that voter suppression. That's all I'm saying. It might be an ugly word, but if you make it harder for somebody to vote, if you make it harder for me to do my job, all right, you're impeding me. You're suppressing my progress. I'm just saying, why not make it easier for everyone to vote? Why make it harder? Why implement anything? And this business of voter fraud, there's never been a single case. I believe the last case was it was a guy who voted for Trump twice. I think he voted for Trump and then he voted with his his dead wife or his dead mom or something. I don't know. The last time they found voter fraud was I think it was an old lady who just kept voting with the wrong. She was using her husband's voter registration card instead of hers. I mean, like, there's no voter fraud going on. I don't see. People tear me up on the comments and shit when I was talking about I don't think you can rig a game, and they're like, oh, just a ref and this you can rig. No, I don't think you can rig an election. I think it's too hard. There's too many people that would have to be involved. I mean, you'd have to be hacking into the voter machine software, and I don't think you can do it. I don't think you can do it.
But there's enough people who do, and that's the problem.
Then that's what you're saying, right? You believe that the system is no good, so you lose faith.
We've talked about transparency. We've talked about being verification. That's how you gain faith, that people can understand and see what's happening. Okay, this idea of the integrity of the election being called into question, okay, needs to be killed.
Oh yeah,
we need to resolve that permanently, unequivocally. Okay, so I don't know how you do that without having some sort of check and balance that's in there.
Right.
Okay, and a check and balance that should be irrefutable.
Well, bro, they recounted the votes in Georgia. They recounted the votes, and they still had the same. So it's like, oh, I don't believe in that recount. I'm like, at what point is enough? And we know that we're never going to.
The thing is, okay, but let's go full on conspiracy. And I'm not one to say that there's a massive voter fraud. I don't believe into any of that. Okay, but if you tell someone who has that concern, okay, that we recounted the votes, all he's going to say to you is like, the fake ballot was already submitted. You're recounting the already faked ballots.
So we have to do a new vote.
I'm not saying a new vote, but let's talk about the mail-in ballots that everybody's, concerned with or hung up with. The fact that suddenly they were disproportionately for one side.
Right.
Okay. Well, then how is that being audited? Fine. They were mailed in. You recounted them again. The problem happened when it got mailed. You sitting there and telling me you recounted them. You didn't do anything to verify the integrity of it. The question is, did the person that actually mail it send it out?
Well, how do you fix it?
I don't know the answer to that. And that's the issue. I think no one does. So the only way you're going to have to deal with that is somehow verify the person who's mailing it out. Okay. That's going to create a barrier. Oh, that's voter suppression.
That's voter suppression, man.
Shit, I'm saying, okay, then you're telling me the only way for us to have free open voting is to have no checks and balances whatsoever.
Yeah, that can't be right. That can't be right.
The problem with in-person voting is that it's very inconvenient in today's society. Not everyone can necessarily take time off to go vote in person. Honestly, I would rather do a mail-in ballot.
National holiday, it's voting day.
That could work.
That's what they.
If you created a national holiday and everybody went to go vote at the same time, you'd be standing in line for 5 or 6 hours. Okay. If you gave me the choice to mail in my vote versus standing in that line for 5 hours, I would have mailed it now.
Yeah, I normally mail in my ballot. I think a week before the election. I always mail in my ballot. The only time I ever went to vote was when Stacey wanted to vote in person. So we went.
It was her first.
It was her first time voting,
right,
so she wanted to do it in person. But I mail that shit in. I don't understand why we can't do it online. I'd rather do it online. I think there you would motivate the younger folks. But there
you would have greater participation for sure.
For sure. But then probably have.
But everyone's going to be afraid about hacking and all this other stuff. They're already worried about hacking of the actual voter machines at site and how easy this is and all this other nut. And every party that loses always claims there's some level of.
Well, the last time I believe that they said there was it was challenged was Al Gore, George Bush. It was Florida. Florida was the disaster.
Hillary, they was challenged when Hillary ran as well. There were some questions about certain sites and states and
Hillary challenged the Trump vote?
Herself.
Oh, okay.
The DNC in certain areas, there were some challenges that were done. Every time the party loses, there's always a challenge.
Yeah.
There's always some sort of fight that goes on.
Well, I kind of talked about this. I think America just doesn't accept the reality that they don't like. You know what I mean? In sports, it's happening. In elections, it's happening.
Because we're losing faith in the systems.
In all systems?
Yes.
Damn.
And that is a major problem. But they've lost faith in every single system. And each generation that comes in has less faith than the one before.
Is that because we have lackluster leaders? Or figureheads or whatever? Because I think the faith of the system is, bolstered up by the person who's, in charge,
So
or the people in charge.
I just read this book by Twinge, the professor out of Berkeley.
Yeah, I
called
got to read that book.
Generations.
You were
I
telling
really
me
start
about
to
it. Yeah.
reread it. But one of the things she talks about is social media, okay, and how the fracturing of our entertainment and how we get our media, our news specifically, is a major issue. Okay, we've joked about the fact that there was the one TV that everybody sat there and watched. You had no choice. That also meant the whole family is watching one news station.
Yeah.
Okay. And for most people, that was the only way you were going to get your news. Now, it was ABC, NBC, what have you, CBS back in the day, but you had one news station that the family watched.
Right.
Okay. Everybody got their news from one source. That station decided what it wanted to report based on its own slant. Everybody got their news from basically a handful of sources. Now we have social media. Okay.
Everybody with their mama an opinion and a camera.
Okay. I don't care what position you have, conservative, liberal, right wing, socialist, whatever. There's over 150 sites all offering the same nonsense. Okay. Even within socialism, even within capitalism, even within pro-life or environmental, it doesn't matter. Those sections are all been narrowed down to these tiny little niches. So we're no longer getting it from that one source. So when everybody was getting it from that one source, it was beyond question. There was nothing else to
We all saw the
challenge
same
it
thing. We all saw the same thing at the same time
with the same slant.
with the same slant. Yeah.
There's nothing to challenge it. Now everything gets challenged. Everything gets called into question. We can't even decide what a fact is anymore.
Fake news.
Okay?
Yeah.
Studies come out by different scientific journals. People poke holes on them immediately. They take portions of the challenge and give you their own set of conclusions, not even in the freaking original study. Statistics comes out and 9 different interpretations of the same statistical data comes out.
Yeah. Yeah. We're talking about this just with the jobs numbers.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no faith in any of these systems. Now, how do we address that? I don't know, but this is a problem. And we talked about how our governments, our systems are kind of behind. They're antiquated.
You know who doesn't have this problem? China.
This is the
And it goes back to that lens that you talked about.
yes. Yeah.
China only lets you have this lens.
Right. No, when the government controls the media and decides what you're allowed to see, and, then there's no confusion because everybody's only seeing one thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It may not be the truth, but you're only seeing one thing.
And if you talk bad, you go missing. If you question the system, you go missing.
That's happening here, though. So, I mean,
We talking about the Boeing guy? Bro. Oh, man. I don't know. That is suspicious as shit. I mean,
in a society where we have no trust in our systems, this is one shitty ass coincidence for this guy. Okay.
bro, that's right up like a Putin guy. Go against Putin, all of a sudden you get poisoned. This guy goes against Boeing, and all of a sudden he's dead. He must have known some really.
The Navalny comparison, it has to be like that.
Oh,
There's
for
no
sure.
question.
Yeah.
There's.
But I mean,
I want to give these people the benefit of the doubt. I want to say this is one really crappy ass coincidence, but in this era where you can't believe nobody, you can't believe nothing.
But imagine everything he said was true. That Boeing has been like lackluster on their safety and all of that and whatever, what have you. Why would Boeing do that? This is that's an American staple. Boeing has been around for fucking forever.
If I'm gonna believe that this person was killed because of his testimony,
Yeah.
okay, and I'm struggling to accept this fact,
Uh-huh.
okay, but if I'm going to believe that, I don't think. Let me rephrase that. I am choosing to believe that no board member meeting took place at Boeing and said,
Let's
"Yo,
whack this guy."
Yeah, I'm going to choose to believe
Costa Nostra.
that didn't happen.
Okay.
Okay. More likely what would happen is there was some official, some executive, some person higher up in the company who was probably going to lose their job because of this person's testimony. And therefore he, in some warped sense of self-defense, revenge, yada, yada,
He got the guy taken care of.
out of his own personal,
So you don't think Boeing did it?
I choose not to believe that. I'm choosing my reality in this situation.
Yeah. Choose the. Hey, but the facts are the facts. The man was going to testify or was testifying, and he's dead. So the facts are the facts. We don't have too many people for our segment today. We got to close out with Pussy versus Patriot, but we don't have too many people. We've done Trump, we've done Biden, we've done everyone. The whistleblower guy. I'm just going to say he was a patriot for telling the truth. What's his name? Do you remember his name? I feel bad.
I don't know his
You
name.
got him, the Boeing whistleblower guy, the Boeing guy,
That's unfortunate, but no, I don't know his name.
soon to be forgotten. That's the reality of it.
That's the sad truth. Yes.
It'll be forgotten.
Yes.
Like I was on the plane, dude. We flew to Puerto Rico, and the whole time I'm looking at the exit door, like, is this shit gonna fly off? I'm just looking at it. They had 6 empty seats. They said we need 6 people to sit in the exit rows. Like they were giving away, like, because they had more legroom than that, bro. They couldn't fill up the 6 seats. They just had to assign people.
Again,
So
the loss of faith in the system. People have that little faith.
yeah,
Honestly, if you thought that was a concern, why are you in your goddamn plane?
that's true. You're not gonna stop. You're not gonna stop flying. Yeah, flying is still the safest mode.
You
of
don't want to be in
transportation.
that safety seat because you're afraid it's gonna fly off the door. Dude, I wouldn't be on the plane.
That's true.
If I really had that concern,
Yeah. And we flew over water, so it wasn't like they could turn around and land. I'm only scared now. I mean, on the plane. No, I'm not gonna lie. Junior was he was waiting in line to go to the bathroom, and he was standing by the door, and I was just like, just don't even think it, dude. I just said, don't even think it. I just went back down and started watching my tablet.
right now I have to call Boeing guy. Shit, we don't know his name. I have to call him a patriot
Yeah.
until we know more information.
So we know more. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But based on what we've seen right now,
I'll laugh if they do an investigation. They find child pornography on his computer. He was probably part of the safety committee that signed off on these things that it didn't happen. I think they're gonna smear him.
it might be as simple as like he got paid.
John what?
John Barnett. Yes. Okay.
Barnett or Barnett?
That spelled
John,
the same way.
John, you're a patriot.
Spelled the
You're a
same way.
patriot until John, the Boeing guy.
Boeing Barnett.
Boeing. All right, this is our last one for Brothers View. Appreciate you guys. Well, not our last one, but we're ending it now, and we'll be back for another episode. So thanks for joining us.